Each time we go to confession, the priest asks us to pray the acts of contrition. In the concluding part of that prayer, it reads, I firmly resolve with the help of thy grace to sin no more and to avoid the near occasion of sin. Amen. That part of the prayer is captured in today's gospel as Jesus talks about the need to avoid every occasion of sin by using extreme measures that if our eyes, our ears, and our hands would cause us to sin, that we should cut them off. But taking these instructions at face value would lead to everyone being blind, deaf, and lame. It sounds so silly and harsh, but here Jesus uses an ancient Middle Eastern literary style to emphasize the need to avoid sin because it engenders all our troubles and problems. But sadly, we hate to talk about sin because it looks so dark and self-convicting. But that is the very reason we need to confront this ugly and dark reality of sin that continues to destroy us, and more so, that leads to the loss of eternal good, which is the salvation of our souls. So what is sin? Looking at the word as an acronym, we might say that it is simple instruction neglected, while the common definition is that it is an offense against God, which makes it seem as if it is about God and us appealing to God's feelings and emotions. But the Catechism of the Catholic Church, drawing from the wisdom of Saints Augustine and Aquinas, answers the question so well, that sin is an offense against reason, truth, and right conscience. It is a failure in genuine love for God and neighbor caused by a perverse attachment to certain goods. It goes on to say that it wounds the nature of man and injures human solidarity. So it is a failure to love God and our neighbors, and a failure to seek the good in a vicious way, which ends up harming who we are and damages our relationship with God, with one another, and with our environment. It makes us less of who we are and what we are meant to become, and ultimately leads to the loss of eternal good. No wonder Jesus took it very serious and warns us against scandal, which according to the Catechism is an attitude or behavior, especially when done deliberately, that leads another to do evil. Now, what Jesus warns us against, which is sin and the sin of scandal, also extends to committing heresy, especially formal heresy, which is consciously teaching a belief that is contrary to Christian faith and thereby leading others to error and sin. Just as Jesus takes sin seriously because of its cost, the loss of one's soul, we must also take it seriously more than we take our earthly businesses seriously. Because while our businesses can cause or gain us temporal goods, which can be regained or lost, that which has to do with the spiritual and moral life ought to be taken more seriously because it can cause us eternal good that cannot be regained. So as much as we are uncomfortable with the question of sin, we need to pay attention to the goodness that we are being invited to. For when God says no, He says yes to something else. So may we keep our focus on that good that God calls us to and realize that in every caution against sin is God's desire that we may be fully alive in Him. May the Lord bless His words in our hearts. Amen.